Angus Strathie for Schmigadoon. You joined. Were you a fan of the first season?
Yeah, no, look, anybody singing a song is a very nice place for me to be. Yeah, I loved the first season. I thought, what is this crazy thing? I mean, it was filmed during the pandemic. I didn't even know it was happening up here, but yeah, I thought it was incredible. I think it was so refreshing and funny and all the great things that we love in musicals and Broadway, and particularly that cast. I thought this is great. And my second thought was, damn, why didn't I get that? So when the opportunity came to do the second season, yeah, I was thrilled to do it.
Mhm. So what were your conversations with Cinco Paul like when you came on board? Like, did you get a whole overview of the season and what the musical numbers were and what shows you guys would be paying homage to?
Yeah, to an extent. I mean, it pretty much explains it when he said, "Well, that was the musicals of the 40s and 50s, and this is going to be the musicals of the 60s and 70s." And being sort of a musical fan, if you like, um, not that I know every nuance of every musical ever. I knew, I had. Um, certainly a knowledge or certainly, a love of a lot of those musicals. So, you already have a term of reference. And the conversations from that point on is how much of it do you want? How much are we referencing the musicals? Do we want a hint of it, or do we want a complete reproduction of it? So yeah, there was somewhere to start from because we knew the base material, if you like.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, I mean, the first episode we have this, cabaret-esque number by Dove Cameron, just Jenny Banks. She's like a twist on Sally Bowles, and that's a gorgeous halter dress that she's wearing. So yeah, so how do you go about like putting your own twist on these iconic looks?
um that was kind of the challenge, if you like, because you think, well, some of the costumes are so iconic from the original shows that it's sometimes hard not to think of something else without going completely other genre entirely. However, uh, Cinco always wanted the costumes, not unlike the music, to parody where they came from, and you needed to have that immediate reaction to them and go, "Oh, I know who you are. I know who Sally Bowles is. I know she has to have a bob." And I have to say, she was the only bowler hat that we put in the whole show too. I didn't put too many of those on everybody, but you find a way, and you just think, well, what worked about the first one? What'll work? And of course, Dove's a different girl. Dove is not Liza Minnelli. They're very, two beautiful girls, but it's about making it suit her and fit her and be how she feels, but still give us that sort of musical parody. Parody was the big word, as opposed to copy, because of course you've also got breathing down your neck. All the folks from Legal who says, can it be the same? And quite a lot of the time we had to put drawings in front of them. So they go, are we going to be sued for this or not? So, that's what that was.
Yeah, I mean, like they're, just creatively, like there's some ways that they got around it. Like, Jane Krakowski, it's like a gender swap Billy Flynn. So
Yes.
yeah, and those pantsuits and dress suits were gorgeous, those pinstripe suits. So how did you go about designing those?
It was like, it was going back to the Billy Flynn and the Chicago, and going, it was easier because, immediately as soon as it goes on someone of a different sex, it's a different costume, really, and to Legal, they're not going to, also they're going to say a pinstripe suit's a pinstripe suit. Nobody's got a thing. Nobody's got a claim to that as such. And with Jane, yeah, and also Jane comes with her own vibe on it too, because not only is she doing the Billy Flynn, but she also wants the Velma aspect of Chicago, and you know, she had all those other influences too, which was really interesting, which came in more when she did her big show number. So yeah, things grow as soon as, certainly with the actors, after I've actually put pen to paper. So yeah, it gets its own vibe in the end.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there seems like they're, unlike the first season, there's like distinct worlds in season 2. Like you have like the Schmicago Chicago world, and then there's the 60s tribe, and those costumes were a lot of fun. So what went to those?
That was the tricky thing in the first Schmicago. It was all characters that exist in this town, and they all had a similarity to what they were. With this, as you said, there are these 3 worlds, and I remember Cinco, I've heard him being interviewed saying, we have all these different styles of music too, or different styles of music. Are they all going to sit together? Likewise with Jamie and the set, and she kept those worlds quite separate. There was the Victorian world of the orphanage, there was the club, and then there was the out of town junkyard world of the hippies. And with the costumes the same, I sort of made them true to those characters and those worlds. And so when the characters actually intermingled or related to each other, we sort of enjoyed the fact that they may pop. For instance, when Cecily and Dove go to the world of the hippies, they're dressed in black. So they sort of pop against all the color of the hippies. And so I never thought there was a time when everybody should look like they're from the same world, because they're not. And that wouldn't be true to their sort of genesis in the piece.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do love Jenny's like fur when she goes to the tribe, and then when she falls in love with like Aaron Tveit, and then she changes her whole look.
Oh, exactly. All of a
Yeah.
sudden, there's a couple of hippie costumes. Yay! Okay, we'll do that too. So that's the fun, you know, and
Mm-hmm.
the fun of a musical too. You know, another song is an excuse for another costume, for sure.
Mm-hmm. One of my favorite looks is so simple, but it's Melissa's tangerine dress in the 4th episode when they have dinner with Mrs. Caldwell and Dooley, and it really plays off of Mrs. Caldwell's yellow dress too. So what went into that design?
That surprisingly, that went through a few that was one of the ones that legal were at me with. Strangely enough, because Cinco came barreling into the office at one point saying, okay, I've had this great idea. Melissa comes across in Jenny's apartment the clothes that belonged to the dancer that was killed, and all of a sudden, and I think that dancer had an obsession with Barbara Streisand clothes, and went, oh, all right, Barbara Streisand clothes, great. So he wanted the costumes from then on Cecily to reference clothes that Barbara's worn. And so with that, you know, we took a lot of the looks or alter as it looks from On a Clear Day as inspiration for those. And that's where that orange dress came from. And it was adapted from, if you like, you know, with the giant Braytons and things like that.
Who knew that would cause so much trouble? But there you go.
I think there's a not terrible. Apple is not terribly bad. We've seen worse. That there's just a paranoia about the legal ramifications, because there's been some nightmare stories in the past. So it's just something people like to keep their eye on. And you know, especially with this one, because my first thing of the whole thing is, how do you get away with this? How do you get away with
It's a parody. That's all you have to remember. It's a parody.
It's a parody. And I'm going, you know, but there were some things where, you know, they were a little sensitive about, you know, Frankenfurter, because it's such a known costume, even though the 100 of Frankenfurter costumes out there are all quite different. They were keeping their eye out on me, that's for sure.
Awesome. Well, Angus, it was great speaking with you. Thanks so much for your time. And
Thank you.
See you back in a bit.